Hi, everyone. Sasha Cunningham here from the American Society for the Positive Care of Children. And I'm here today with licensed mental health counselor, Janine Halloran. How are you doing this morning, Janine?
I'm so great, Sasha. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm so excited to have the opportunity and there's my dog with a big Friday morning yawn. You know what? I feel like people will appreciate that content. So we'll just keep moving.
Yep, I love it. If my dog were here, he'd be coming in and saying hello as well. So,
Yes, yes. So, on this wonderful Friday morning, what we'd love to hear from you is what inspired you to create coping skills for kids?
oh gosh. Well, I've been a counselor for about 20 years now. So, at the beginning of my career, when I was first starting out, I finished graduate school and, in graduate school, you learn strategies, you learn all the theory, all that sort of stuff, what kind of research is out there, what evidence is out there for the stuff that you are working with kids and teens. And I found that I had a few strategies, a few coping skills that kids could use. But then I got into a classroom and kids were having a hard time. Kids were melting down. Kids were throwing things. And the few strategies I had, I went through those within 10 minutes and I was like, oh no, now what? Because I'm still here. They're still in crisis. I've done the things that I thought were going to work and they haven't. And so just real practical world experience. I wanted to help them try and figure out what coping strategies they could use in the classroom, what coping strategies they could use at home. And so I started, when I was doing the work, I would pay attention to what worked and what didn't. I would talk to my colleagues. I would try and just gather as many sort of strategies that were kid friendly and fun as I could. And I kept looking for this book, right? I kept looking, where's this book of coping skills? I need a book that I can just access and come up with ideas. And my husband, after 10 years of hearing me say this, he's like, why don't you just write it? It really doesn't exist. You've already looked, you've checked Amazon, you've checked all the bookstores you always check. And you don't there, it's not there. So just write it. And so that sort of began coping skills for kids. I wrote it in my living room, and I decided to put it out there and see what people thought, and people really responded well to it. And it got republished by a publishing company, Pessy Publishing, reached out to me and asked me if they could republish it, and I said yes. And it just sort of snowballed from there. So people would ask, "Oh, do you have a checklist that I could use that I could, work with kids?" "Oh yeah, here you go." "Do you have visuals that I could use?" It would be really helpful if I could do that. So it sort of grew organically from there. But it really stemmed from this desire to have just a whole list of things that kids could do when they're feeling frustrated, when they're feeling angry, when they're feeling stressed, when they're feeling anxious. What are the things that you can do to help you walk through it and feel better and get to the next part of your day?
Oh, what an amazing resource for parents and families, because I know it's so hard often to just come up with ideas on the top of your head. So if you have that toolkit available, wow, so helpful. How do you feel like your background as a mental health practitioner informs coping skills for kids?
So a lot of the strategies that I talk about in the book are things that I've actually done with clients. So, talking about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding is one of the techniques I've learned through the years. And I have talked about, and when I speak in front of audiences of teachers and educators and counselors, I share about clients that I've used it with. So, a client who's really struggling with anxiety and separation from her mom when she was away on a vacation, on a work trip, actually. And the bonus and the benefit of seeing her be able to use that strategy. So a lot of the things that I'm talking about, I've used personally with my clients and even with my own children. So I know that these are things that are helpful. I know that these are things that work. Talking with other colleagues of mine, that's where I also get a lot of ideas. When I worked in schools, when I was a school counselor, I would be in charge of the entire building. So I saw everybody. I saw everyone in the building at one point or another. I would go into all the classrooms And so I would see what strategies worked. I would talk with the kids and ask, what helps you when you're feeling stressed? What helps you when you're feeling angry? Really boots on the ground, sort of informing me as to what's going to be helpful, as well as, thinking and looking at research and keeping up with all the evidence that's out there as well. But sometimes that can lag behind. So it's interesting, and it can inform, the things that I'm hearing can inform, more research in the future. Like, oh, this is really helpful. Let's look at this. Or, oh, this is really helpful. Maybe people should look at this as well. So that really does the background of just being a therapist, working with kids, seeing what is working and what doesn't.
Absolutely. And the fact that you're still practicing, you're still working in the field really just leads to the evolution, it seems like, of this strategy system that you've created. So that's awesome, that it'll just keep growing over time, and being able to gain more and more information and skills for parents. That's really cool. So we're very proud and excited for you to join our Trusted Parenting Network. And we wanted to know what made you interested in joining us in this Trusted Parenting Network program we have at American SPCC.
One of the things that really pulled me towards your program was the fact that you are vetting people and you're looking at the background of the people who you're letting in and talking about making sure that it is actual, like, real practical world experience and expertise that comes into it. So when I first was looking, I saw Ashley Soderlund and I saw Sarah Moore, and I really respect their work. And I really respect what they have to say. And I admire the things that they're saying. And I share their work all the time, actually. So if you go to like the Coping Skills for Kids Facebook, I share stuff from Nurture and Thrive all the time because I think that her work is so amazing. And I love Sarah's book, the book that's coming out, and I'm going to be having her on my podcast soon. So
That's amazing.
yeah, I admire the people who were in there, and that's why I was like, you know what, I want to be part of this group. Like, these are people who I admire, whose work I find to be inspirational and helpful. So I want to make sure that I'm putting myself in this crowd. I can't believe I'm like part of it, but that's kind of cool. So that's really what led me to it.
That's so great. I mean, that's one of the things that we really strive to do, is to be a reputable source for high quality educators and parents and families and other people in the community that want to support the children in our lives and in this country, and really be that sort of like network and be able to collaborate and learn from each other and grow. It's so exciting to me as well. So I'm glad you find that exciting. So I think the question on everyone's minds, what our parents really want to know, is what advice do you have if they're struggling with parenting their teenager?
Oh my goodness. So
big question.
I know, full disclosure, I am a parent of teenagers. So, so I understand the struggle. But I will say one of the things that I found to be most helpful is trying to figure out a way to connect with them, to talk with them about the things that they're interested in. And that can lead to some nice conversations where you can have that connection and potentially have teachable moments as you go through your time chatting with them. So I will talk with my children about what they're watching. I will listen to them as they tell me about the latest anime that they are watching, the latest video game they are playing, the latest book that they are reading, even if I don't get it. And they recognize that I don't get it. My son will actually be like, I know that you don't understand what this means, but it's really cool. And this is why. Which I think is very sweet. And then sharing memes, sharing gifs we find funny, sharing little video clips that we find funny, just trying to find ways to connect. Even if it seems silly, that's where the magic happens. That's where the connection and the groundwork for being able to have those more serious conversations about what do you want to do with your life? What are your plans for the future? Let's talk about these other like more big serious things. But to be able to have that level of trust, to have that connection and talk about it, you got to start kind of little. And it's okay to have fun with your teenagers. I guess, thinking about having raised children like elementary school kids, it's kind of easy to have fun with them, right? Like you play certain games with them, you go out with them and play in the playground. It's natural to do that. the play changes as they get into teenagehood, but it doesn't mean that they stop playing. They play differently. So
Mhm.
maybe they play video games. So I play video games with my kids. I do. Like we play Mario Kart, we play Stardew Valley together. We play
Oh,
Animal
love
Crossing together.
it. I love
Yeah.
Mario Kart. Big
Oh,
Mario
yeah.
Kart fan.
So that's what I do. I try to make it fun. Have games that we play. We like, what's the game that we love? What do you mean? We love that game. It makes us laugh every time. So finding ways to play and have fun and downtime with your teenagers, continuing to build that connection that you've been working on since they were little. And or maybe you're starting it now. That's okay. You can start by just asking them to share like a funny video of a dog that they thought was funny recently. Like seriously. And it will grow from there. It becomes easier over time when you do that.
Yeah, I love that idea of finding those like little moments to connect and building upon those. I think that's really great advice. So finally, closing out, I have one more question with you. What is your favorite thing to do with your kids? I know we just talked about games that you like to play and things like that, but what is the number one best thing you like to do with your kids?
You know what? I really enjoy going and experiencing new things with them. So
Mm.
we try as a family to do, maybe a trip or two during the year. But also just having like some staycations. Like it's not like we're going very far. We're going to try a new restaurant. We're going to try um, walking in this new path. Because we just moved, so we're finding new places to walk. We're finding new things to do, taking our dog on a swim lesson, having those new experiences together. It really is bonding. And then you have a shared memory that you can look back on for good or for maybe like the silliness of it or like things didn't go well. That's okay. It's still a fun memory that you can look back on and say, oh gosh, we did that together. So I love experiencing new things with them, showing them new things, bringing them to new things. Whether it's like a big concert or just like a new walking path.
I love that. And like Sarah Moore would say, you're creating your family's history.
Yep.
That's amazing. Oh, well, thank you so much, Janine, for taking the time to sit down with the American SPCC and have this interview today. And thank you so much for being a member of our Trusted Parenting Network. We're so excited to have you.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I really am honored.
Oh, wonderful. All right, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this interview. Please check out the American SPCC's website for more information on coping skills for kids and all the other amazing resources we have, especially in our Trusted Parenting Network. Goodbye.